call this meeting to order. Here in the courtroom in Condon is Commissioner Wilkins, and Commissioner Shannon, is joining us via Zoom. So we do have a quorum. Shall we do the flag salute? What do you guys think? Oh, let's do the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the
flag of the United States
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we'll move into 2.0, which is additions and revisions to the agenda. We have a grant submittal request form that I would like to add. I think, Pat, it's probably in your inbox, but this is coming from Chris Fitz. It's her annual Oregon Emergency Management grant. And it's something that she applies for every year. It covers half of her salary. So would you guys prefer to have that be under new business or under the consent agenda?
I reviewed it and that makes sense to me. I think we can put it under the consent agenda.
Okay, we'll add it as 5.4 then under the consent agenda. Any other additions or revisions? None there. Okay. Let's move on to 3.0, which is correspondence and public comment. Individuals wishing to address the county court may do so at this time and at other times throughout the meeting. Speakers are asked to raise your hand to be recognized by the chair. Give your name and address and limit comments to 3 minutes. For folks who are dialing in via Zoom, it's *6 to unmute yourself, or if you're on your computer, it's the lower left-hand side of the Zoom platform. And then I also like to just remind folks that we are very informal. So as we move through the agenda, feel free to interject and ask questions and provide feedback. Any public comment at this point? Don't see anything. Let's move into correspondence. Let's see, there is an operational grant program final report from the Arlington Child Care Center. Thank you for doing this, Delaney. Delaney's marking my thing so I can actually see these now. And then a special projects grant program final report from the Condon Elks Lodge. Again, for the public's information, this is a requirement for folks that receive grants from the county. We ask that they do a final report at the end of the fiscal year. And so those are coming in for folks who are interested in seeing where the public funds were spent, how they were invested. These are always available on the county court's website as part of the packet. So feel free to check those out. Okay, that's all I have under correspondence. Let's move into 4.0, which is public hearing to receive comment on ordinance number 2022-04, providing for amendments to the Gilliam County Zoning and Land Development Ordinance, affecting Article 4, Section 4.070, Intermodal Industrial Use Zone by adding temporary workforce housing provisions. Other articles affected include Article 1 and Article 7. I have a script to read, so I'm going to do that. Okay, this is the time duly set and advertised to conduct a public hearing to consider proposed text amendments to the Gilliam County Zoning and Land Development Ordinance, including Article 4, Section 4.070, Intermodal Industrial Zone, and other applicable sections to specifically allow for temporary workforce housing provisions. File number 2022-3 or -L01. The hearing is now called to order. The public hearing will be conducted as follows. Staff will give their report and answer any questions from members of the court. Following the staff report, I will then open the hearing for public testimony, proponent, opponent, neutral, and agency. After the opportunity for public testimony, members of the county court may have additional questions for staff. Then the court will decide whether to close the hearing and deliberate the matter. Some rules. Testimony. When you testify, please state your name and address for the record. Please keep your testimony concise and relevant to the issues before us this morning. All testimony shall be directed towards the county court and not to other members of the audience. The applicable criteria are listed in the staff report. These are the criteria the county court will use to make its decision. Failure to raise an issue with sufficient specificity to afford the county court and all parties an opportunity to respond to an issue may preclude an appeal to the Land Use Board of Appeals based on that issue and may preclude an action in circuit court. To expedite the hearing, members of the court may ask questions of persons as they testify. At this time, I would ask the members of the court to disclose any conflicts of interest or other matters that might preclude your participation in these proceedings. Please indicate the nature of the conflict and state whether you intend to participate in these proceedings. Do you have any conflicts?
I have no conflicts that I'm aware of.
Pat, any conflicts?
I do not believe so.
And me either. Does anybody wish to challenge the ability of any member of the county court to participate in these proceedings? Can it *6 to unmute yourself if you dialed in, or the lower left-hand side of your Zoom screen if you're on your computer? Don't see anything. Okay, we will move into the staff report and questions. Staff will now present the staff report and any correspondence on this matter, other than those items already included in the record. Michelle, good morning.
Good morning.
Take it away.
That was a little low. All right. Good morning and thank you for your time today. I'm going to start with a little background into the process to amend the Gilliam County Zoning and Land Development Ordinance. An amendment to the text of the Gilliam County Zoning and Land Development Ordinance may be initiated by the county court, the county planning commission, or by an application of the property owner. In this case, the county court has initiated the amendment process by directing staff to proceed. I will provide a summary of the staff report as it is entered officially into the record, and the members of the court received a copy in advance of the hearing. Notice of the text amendments was provided to Oregon Department of Land Use and Conservation and Development, and notice of the Planning Commission public hearing and the county court public hearing was done in accordance with statutory notice requirements. On June 28th, the Planning Commission held a public hearing on the matter and is recommending the county court move forward with formal adoption of text amendments to the Gilliam County Zoning and Land Development Ordinance, affecting Articles 1, 4, and 7. The Planning Commission's recommendation is to adopt text amendments as amended and presented in the staff report that you received before this meeting today. The proposed text amendments to Article 4, specifically to the intermodal zone, introduce new language to allow as a conditional use provisions for temporary workforce housing associated with permitted renewable energy projects. The text amendments to Article 7, conditional uses, outline standards for allowing temporary workforce housing. Temporary workforce housing is proposed as a conditional use in the intermodal zone. Conditional use review considers whether the use is compatible with adjacent uses and whether the layout of the site plan makes sense. Before I get into the specific criteria for temporary workforce housing, let me note that the detailed staff report sets out all the applicable approval criteria along with the proposed findings for the proposed text amendments. If there are any questions or recommended revisions concerning the proposed text amendments, please let me know. I will list the specific standards and criteria proposed under Article 7, standards governing conditional uses first. First is the addition of the letter Y, temporary workforce housing. Temporary workforce housing, except when proposed as part of a Type 2 conditional use application for a utility facility for public service or permitted power generation facility, the county will process standalone requests for temporary workforce housing associated with such facilities as a Type 1 conditional use, subject to the following. The county may waive temporary workforce housing from any or all requirements for on-site or off-site improvements, water supply and sewage disposal, if such improvements and facilities are not readily available and are not feasible to construct for the duration of the temporary housing. Temporary workforce housing must be associated with a specific permitted utility facility for public service or permitted power generation facility project. The period of operation shall be designated by the reviewing authority based on the duration of the associated project. Temporary workforce housing as a type 1 conditional use will expire within 2 years from issuance, and the applicant must reapply for any renewals or extensions. The type and total number of temporary dwelling units shall be designated by the reviewing authority. Other conditions such as dust control, noxious weed control, fire suppression in defensible spaces, and solid waste collection and disposal found necessary to protect the public health and general welfare shall be designated by the reviewing authority. In no case shall a temporary facility for renewable energy project construction be approved if other alternatives for housing the employees associated with such projects is available, as documented by the applicant. The burden of proof and need is the applicant's responsibility to demonstrate to the reviewing authority. And lastly, temporary workforce housing must be removed or converted to an allowed use in the applicable zone upon expiration of the approval. The process so far has involved the Planning Commission making a recommendation with the final decision on the proposed text amendments to be rendered by the county court. The proposed amendments are recommended by the Planning Commission. The court can, of course, make its own amendments to the recommendation. Are there any questions at this time?
Questions, commissioners?
I think my questions are specifically to what we're doing here, but after the fact.
Pat, did you have questions?
No, I couldn't hear Sherry though.
Oh, I'm sorry. I do have some questions, but I think they're after the fact. If we do approve this, then I have some questions regarding how it's managed.
So the one question I have, Michelle, is, this started looking at this was based on Shetler Station Industrial Park. Are there what other properties are zoned intermodal?
So I do have a map that I'll just pull out since I had it printed. Pat, this was in your staff report, so hopefully you can pull it up. The intermodal zone is just primarily located around Shetler Station,
Okay.
and there are two other landowners, yes,
Okay.
that are involved. At this time, I should say.
Any other questions? Should we move forward?
I'm ready to move forward.
Yeah, the intermodal industrial zoning, what makes that different from other industrial zoning?
At the time, yes, Commissioner, the county court several years ago developed several different industrial zones. There's the general industrial, there's the limited industrial, and the intermodal. The intermodal, when it first started, was referred to as the rail park zone. And so that's why it was created, is because of the proximity of the rail line and what they could do with the rail line. The other zones don't necessarily specifically bring out the rail line. This zone does.
And did the landowners, the other landowners that are affected, I assume they were notified that this was being considered and so would have had an opportunity to weigh in? Is that
Yes.
how that works? Okay.
And just so that you know, generally, this is a legislative process, and we're not taking any rights away. We're adding. So when you're adding, you don't necessarily have to inform everyone because you're adding, but definitely when you take anything away from the current zone, you have to make sure anyone that's impacted has the right, and they received plenty of notice.
Got it.
So with that said, if this gets adopted and then at some point the county court wants to change this, we have to kind of go through a different process because it does involve more than one landowner.
Okay. Any other questions at this point? Anything else you want to add, Michelle?
Not at this
At this point. Okay, let's move into the public testimony portion then. At this time, we will receive public testimony. Proponents of the application shall speak first. Opponents of the application shall speak second. Then neutral testimony shall proceed third, and any agency comments next. Again, for folks who are interested in weighing in either of these, it's *6 to unmute yourself, or the lower left-hand side of your Zoom platform. Let's start with, is there anyone who wishes to speak in favor of the application? Give folks a second, see if there's any.
This is Jed Crowther.
Go ahead, Jed. Could you say your full name and address, just so we can capture it in the minutes, please?
Yes, Jed Crowther, 100 Port Drive, Arlington. I appreciate being able to provide testimony at the Planning Commission hearing, and my concerns were addressed and resolved and incorporated in the resolution that has been prepared. Thank you.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
And thank you for submitting that. I thought your letter was very thoughtful, well written. Anybody else who would like to speak in favor of the application? Okay, let's move on to, is there anyone who wishes to speak in opposition of the application? Again, it's *6 to unmute yourself if you are on your phone or lower left-hand side of the Zoom. Folks, just a second. Okay, let's move on to, is there anyone who wishes to provide neutral testimony? How about anybody representing an agency who wishes to provide a comment? Okay. I guess we will move through then. Does staff have any further testimony?
I don't have any further testimony, and I'll just, for the record, the notice said that if anyone wanted to present something in advance to email my email address, and I did not receive anything. And I only came up here just a minute or two before the meeting started, so nothing was received.
Okay. Does any member of the court have any further questions of staff? Pat, you have something?
I do not.
Sherry?
I'm good.
Okay, it's now the county court's discretion on whether we would like to continue the hearing and leave the record open, or close the hearing and deliberate. Commissioners, do you have a preference? You ready to close it? Or
I think we're ready to close based on the lack of any other testimony involved or interested parties.
Empty courtroom. We have an empty courtroom. You in agreement, Pat?
I'm in agreement.
Okay, let's see here. If there are no further questions, I will now close the public hearing. And then we will move actually into possible first reading of ordinance number 2022-04, providing for amendments to the Gilliam County Zoning and Land Development Ordinance affecting Article 4, Section 4.070, Intermodal Industrial Use Zone, by adding temporary workforce housing provisions. Other articles affected include Article 1 and Article 7. Is there further discussion amongst the commissioners? Or would you
No.
like to proceed into motions?
Ready to go?
Yeah, are we ready for a motion?
Yeah, you want to go?
I move to approve the amendments to the Gilliam County Zoning and Land Development Ordinance as proposed under land use file number L-2022-01 based on findings of facts and conclusions of law contained in the staff report.
I will second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the amendments to the Gilliam County Zoning and Land Development Ordinance as proposed under land use file number L-2022-01 based on findings of fact and conclusions of law contained in the staff report. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. And then we would need to proceed with the first reading of the actual ordinance.
I move to have the first reading of ordinance number 2022-04 by title only.
Second.
Moved and seconded that we have the first reading of ordinance number 2022-04 by title only. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay. In the County Court of the State of Oregon, in and for the County of Gilliam, ordinance number 2022-04 in the matter of an ordinance providing for amendments to the Gilliam County Zoning and Land Development Ordinance affecting Article 4, Section 4.070 Intermodal Industrial Use Zone by adding temporary workforce housing provisions. Other articles affected include Article 1 and Article 7.
I move to accept the first reading of ordinance number 2022-04 by title only.
Second.
Moved and seconded that we accept the first reading of ordinance number 2022-04 by title only. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, so we will have this scheduled for the next meeting as well to consider the second reading and adoption. So stay tuned. And thank you for all your hard work on this, Michelle.
You bet.
Thank you.
Getting it done in a hurry.
All righty. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you to the commission. Funny.
Yeah. Yeah, so Planning Commission, very thoughtful folks on there.
Been very busy.
And very busy, yeah. Yeah, oh, by the way, since we have folks, we do have an opening on the Planning Commission. So if anybody is interested in raising your hand, I think you might want to dig into land use planning issues, then please reach out to us. We have notices out and would love to have a good amount of people interested to consider appointment.
Sounds good.
It's a lot of fun.
It's very interesting.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, commissioners, let's move on to consent agenda. We, just as a reminder, did amend the consent agenda at under 2.0. So I just wanted to note that it would be the consent agenda as amended if we wanted to do a motion on it.
I move to approve the consent agenda as amended.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the consent agenda as amended, which consists of consider approval of July 20th, 2022 regular meeting minutes, consider approval of August bills pending review, consider approval of agreement with Pictometry International Corporation for drone imaging services, and consider approval of grant submittal request for Oregon Emergency Management Grant. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, let me just catch up here. Let's move on to 6.1, which is consider first reading of ordinance number 2022-05, an ordinance declaring a ban on psilocybin-related businesses in the unincorporated area of Gilliam County, including psilocybin product manufacturers and service center operators. Just to catch members of the public up, the commissioners should know what we're doing, but I'll just let folks know. During our last meeting on July 20th, the county court approved referring a permanent opt-out of ORS Chapter 475A, which was approved by Oregon voters via ballot measure 109. This is the law that will legalize licensed and regulated manufacturing, transportation, delivery, sale, and purchase of psilocybin products, and the provision of psilocybin services in Oregon. The counties, each of the counties under the law, as well as the cities, have the option of referring whether to opt out to the voters, and would need to do so on this upcoming November 8th ballot. So legal counsel has prepared the attached draft ordinance. Commissioners, just so you're clear on what the process is, we would need to, the first reading of the ordinance. During the next meeting, we need to do a second reading and adoption, as well as there's a resolution that is actually the legal document that refers it to the ballot. And so those are all prepared and ready to go. And then assuming all of those are approved, then we would turn staff loose on getting everything noticed in the paper and submitted to the county clerk and sort of all of the things that we need to do to actually get it on the ballot. So this is the first step of probably a maybe 10 to 12 step process.
All right.
Questions about the ordinance?
I move to have the first reading of ordinance number 2022-05 by title only.
Second.
And moved and seconded that we have the first reading of ordinance number 2022-05 by title only. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, in the County Court of the State of Oregon, in and for the County of Gilliam, ordinance number 2022-05, in the matter of declaring a ban on psilocybin-related businesses in the unincorporated area of Gilliam County, including psilocybin product manufacturers and service center operators.
I move to accept the first reading of ordinance number 2022-05 by title only.
Second.
Moved and seconded that we accept the first reading of ordinance number 2022-05 by title only. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, let's move on to 6.2, which is reconsider approval of proposal for scanning of recorded documents in clerk's office. I see Ellen's on the Zoom. It looks like she has somebody in her office. Do you want to pop down and see if Ellen wants to come see us, or if she wants me to just take it? We're going to pause just a minute and see if Ellen wants to join us. Yeah.
Long Beach. That's last week. Leah.
Okay. Ellen's going to be here in just a minute, so we're just going to hold on for a second. The judge's mother was holding up the county clerk, so.
Kicked her out of the courthouse.
Oh, yeah.
Hi.
Good morning, Ellen.
Everyone.
Good. So
Good.
we are on to reconsider approval of proposal for scanning of recorded documents in your office.
Yes.
Do you want to bring us up? I
Yes.
did not give them
Yeah.
any previous,
No,
so
okay.
feel free to.
So the previous quote from TIS was for off-site. So they want to come pick up all the books and take them to Vancouver, Washington. And I said, no way, I'm not going to be the clerk and go down in history that we lost the books. So, and that's why the bid is so cheap. So I want to go with US Imaging, which their bid was higher, but they had a lot of extra stuff like double checking and stuff that I don't believe we'll need to utilize because we'll do the checking. So I'm hoping it'll be less, but I still would like the full 25,000 because I want to move on to the mortgages, other books if possible.
Right.
So, yes, so I would like to move the, approve the US Imaging quote.
Questions, commissioners?
I
And
don't
it's all
have,
on set.
It seemed reasonable to not want to move
Yeah.
the books
No,
to
no,
Vancouver.
Yeah, they're
I
gonna
think
come
that was
here.
a good call.
That was scary,
Yeah, we
yes.
don't want to go down in history.
Yes, we do not want to go down the history of the
We don't want our name on
first,
there
yes,
either.
yes. So they're gonna come to the courthouse and complete the
It's
process.
not like we don't have crucial documents. in
That's
your office
right, that's right. Nothing, no,
That
nothing.
everybody relies
Right,
on.
right,
to do
right, right,
anything
right.
around
So no
here.
stress there. So, yeah, so I would
So when
like,
did you say they would start when we get this?
she said 90 days after we sign the contract.
Sometime.
And did you resolve where, are we still looking for
Well,
space to do
And
it?
that was, so
Oh,
we
yeah.
needed a room with 2 6-foot tables and chairs,
Oh,
and it needed to be able to be locked.
right.
But she showed me the quote where this is interesting. They want to do it within 24 hours
Oh, my.
and they want access. They want to work 24 hours
Oh,
solid.
my.
Oh,
So
wow.
they want access to the books.
Oh,
So that's
my.
kind of changed my mind too, because we didn't really have a space in the courthouse to accommodate the lock and the secure, because people
Right.
utilize the courtroom, you know, the open
Yeah.
conference rooms isn't locked. So now that they want the 24-hour, I'm hoping I can schedule it and maybe put them in the jury room or the courtroom. And
I feel
then,
like we could make the courtroom
Yes.
work if you can.
yes,
get
and then on a
really-
day that's, there's no court or
Mhm.
there's no
Right.
meetings, that we can accommodate that. So then we could stay here and nothing has to leave the building.
Right.
So I'm hoping to do
That'll
that.
be the hard part. getting
Yes.
it organized.
Yes, get it. So there's always little glitches.
We'll figure it
Hopefully
out.
we'll get it done
We'll
someday.
figure it out.
It's great though.
Yeah,
I love
yeah,
it.
I'm very excited for the project.
Thinking ahead. Yeah.
Yes.
That's good.
So commissioners, can I get a motion from you to approve the US imaging one instead? And with that $25,000 authorization.
I move to accept the bid from US Imaging, Inc. and authorize expenditures of up to $25,000 to scan and index deed and mortgage books in the county clerk's office. I guess that might possibly be in the courtroom.
That reside in the county.
Right.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded that we accept the bid from US Imaging Incorporated and authorize expenditures up to $25,000 to scan and index the deed and mortgage books in the county clerk's office. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank
All
Thank
right.
you.
Go
Thank you
forward.
guys.
Yeah. Move it.
Yes.
Okay, next one is 7.1, consider approval of bids for Gilliam County Fairgrounds Wi-Fi project. I don't know if we want to see if Chris can join us on this one or not. We may try to see if Chris Fitz can come up as well, but I will kick us off. Just to let you know that back in March of 2021, we approved a grant submittal request for Chris Fitz, Gilliam County Emergency Management, to apply for a state Homeland Security grant to cover installing Wi-Fi and internet service at the fairgrounds. The fairgrounds are used as operation centers when we're needing to evacuate or have fire response. It's base camp, and so the proposed project would be upgrading the Wi-Fi there, and then the scope is large enough with the equipment they're using that I would actually also upgrade Burns Park just because of proximity. There you go. So Chris Fitzsimmons reached out to Dry Canyon Communications, Sage Technologies, Day Wireless Systems, and Actech who's our current IT provider, for bids to install the wireless internet system. Both Sage Technologies and Day Wireless declined to bid. Dry Canyon came back, Dry Canyon and Actech came back and said that they would like to bid on parts, but not the whole thing. And so what you have before you would be Dry Canyon's portion of the bid would be $42,800, and then Actech, which would be installing like the firewall, would be $4,925. So the combined project total would be $47,725. There was already grant funds applied toward getting the fiber connected there, so that's why there's still a pretty sizable balance even after the funds. Even after the grant funds would be applied, we would still be looking to find about just shy of 38,000. And there is money available on either the capital projects fund, which is what we use to upgrade our facilities, or we could also take it out as a discretionary, either one. Chris just came in. I basically just walked through, like, we got the 4 bids, the Dry Canyon and Actech came back as a combined sort of each taking a portion, and that we would be looking for $37,725 once your grant is applied toward. Anything
So
else?
are Dry Canyon and Actech aware of their each piece and they don't want to have a,
They work together
they do work together?
to put their
Oh,
bids
they
together.
did.
Yes,
Yeah.
they work together.
Okay.
Yeah, they actually walked the fairgrounds together. And, yeah, and then Dry Canyons went through and we actually had conference calls and all that good stuff. And it's just been kind of a mess
Yeah.
because, yeah, when we first started the whole project, it was inland development, I guess, what WinWave was or is now, inland development, to run the fiber to the fairgrounds, and Actech bid of $15,000 to get everything done. And then lo and behold, I thought, okay, everything's good, $25,000. And then all of a sudden it was like, there's supposed to be somebody else run everything on the fairgrounds. There was a ball dropped in between, but it was kind of the IT turnover kind of in the middle of all that type of stuff. And so then it was like, oh crap. Yeah. And so then Dry Canyon came into the middle of all of it. And then I was like, wait a minute, this $40-some thousand bid and Actech's still sitting over here at $15,000. This is not jiving. Well, then Actech brought theirs back down and to whatever it is, 4,000 now. And I'm like, okay, then I can, I still got 15,000 left of Homeland Security money, then take that off at the top of Dry Canyon and then, yeah, go that way. So it's been a mess.
Okay, so that I understand the math, because the math in the packet didn't make any sense to me. The grant that's in here was already applied for and received for $25,000, and you have $10,000 of it left. That's where you get to the 37 from the 47. That's where the main goes. That hasn't been spent, and the other part of that grant was used to get fiber to the fairgrounds. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes.
And then once the fiber's there, what do they do? Go airway or whatever from there, and whatever is that
Yeah, I
how?
think they decided it would be much more cost effective to do a radio base within the fairgrounds rather than stringing fiber to all the buildings. And so you'll see in the Dry Canyon, there's a whole list of hardware that they're installing, radios,
I saw that.
stations, all that kind of stuff.
Okay, makes sense now, didn't before.
Yeah, so hope is, fingers crossed, because we have fair in 4 or 5 weeks, that 3 weeks? 4 weeks, don't freak Chris out. So that hopefully if we were to approve it today, we have a shot at maybe having it by fair. Not promising anything.
Yeah.
We have a shot.
If the Cambian and all that stuff.
How much do we actually use the fairgrounds for this type of stuff?
A lot, and it's been amazing how much the fairgrounds has gotten used in the last couple of years. And when it really came to light was when we did the COVID vaccinations. That was when it really came to light because they were having to put all the vaccination information into the, what is that system. And they had to sit right there by the window in the kitchen area because that's where the router was, and they couldn't go down into the hall to enter that stuff into the computer. And that's when I was like, yeah. But now there's been all sorts of 4-H programs. 4-H is using that building all the time, and they cannot go past the kitchen area into the cement buildings and the block buildings because of the router not reaching into there. And so it becomes a problem. And if this works, we can get it done. We have elected to try and do a pre-registration program for fair with iPads. And then we're really, really hoping that we can get into the exhibit halls this year and do that. And also use them into the beef barn and use some iPads and go into your office as well. But this also covers Burns Park too.
Yeah.
This also covers Burns Park.
And that doesn't even touch on like when we have a fire and
Yeah,
we're
that
staging
too.
everybody
Yeah.
here, or
Yeah.
there's, people need to be evacuated and they need a
Yes.
place to go,
And
or,
that's how I got the state homeland security grant to begin with, because I really concentrated on the whole shelter and the fire base camps and stuff like that, so.
Well, and I think once it's there, that makes the facility that much
Oh, yeah,
more attractive.
More usable. It's more usable.
yeah.
so if you guys wanted to move forward, I would just need a bid to accept, or a motion to accept each of these bids, the one from Dry Canyon as well as the one from Actex. Those are the only two we received.
I move to approve the bid. Go ahead.
Go ahead, no, you go ahead.
Pick one,
I
Sheriff.
move to approve the bid from Dry Canyon Communications LLC in the amount of $42,800 for hardware programming and wiring installation services for the Fairgrounds Wi-Fi project. Want to do these one at a time?
Yes, please.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the bid from Dry Canyon Communications LLC in the amount of $42,800 for hardware, programming, and wiring installation services for the Fairgrounds Wi-Fi project. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried.
I move to approve the bid from Actex Solutions in the amount of $4,925 for equipment setup, installation, and testing services for the Fairgrounds Wi-Fi project.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve
Thank
the
you.
bid from Actex Solutions in the amount of $4,925 for equipment setup, installation, and testing services for the Fairgrounds Wi-Fi project. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, moving on to 7.2, which is consider approval of revised position descriptions for Public Health Administrator and Family Services Coordinator. So I basically laid out reasons behind this, but I'll just very briefly summarize what is happening. On July 26th, so that would have been last week, the South Gilliam Health District Board held a special meeting and voted to retain assistance conducting an independent investigation following the resignation and workplace complaints of 2 district employees. One of those district employees is my sister, who was a physical therapist at the clinic. Because the investigation concerns the health district's administrator, who is also Gilliam County's public health administrator, and who I currently supervise, I went ahead and contacted the Oregon Ethics Commission for guidance. They recommended that the supervision of the public health administrator and public health department be moved to another member of the county court while this is a pending issue. So in order to maintain sort of this balance that we have created between the three of us. I want to recommend moving the public health administrator and public health department under Human Services Commissioner, and then moving the family services coordinator underneath me, in particular because of the focus that Delaney and I have had as of late on childcare, sort of family supports, things like that. I think there may be some good synergy with the Rocket and other things that we're doing. So that would be my recommendation. What you have before you are the revised job descriptions. As you'll see, there's track changes in them. And basically, they're just updating the supervisor for both, as well as the date that it was approved. So there's no other changes in those. Questions?
Do you have any questions?
So
Pat?
I do have, I'm just going to throw it out. I do have a couple of concerns, and I get that we have to look at the ethics side of this, and I also get the balance in county court member responsibilities. But I do have concerns that this is such a huge part of what the county court is responsible for now, that it concerns me that it's going to a commissioner that is done in December and then probably passed on to a brand new commissioner, and I know what that first year's like. And it seems to me like it really fits better under the full-time member of the court. And I know that's problematic, but is this something we can't wait until we see how things shake out at the health district side? I mean, you talked to the ethics commission. I have not. I don't know what they said. Or is it something that once we go down the road that we could look shifting back? Because I've been on the health board for a couple of years, so it's a big deal. It's important, and it's really important and new to us that I think it's problematic having it under a part-time commissioner.
It can definitely shift back, I think, once the situation with the district is resolved. But I don't know what the timing of that will be. So one of the things, I mean, Delaney has been basically, since she came on board, sort of my right-hand person on all of the documentation, all of the programs. And so my intention would be to have her staff Sherry in this particular department so that she, like Delaney's got a list of all the things that we need to be getting from the district, all of the things that we need to be turning around to OHA. So I feel like although it's not ideal to have to hand Sherry a brand new department that has a lot of moving parts, the feedback from the commission was that they had concerns about a conflict, given that I don't really know what the status is going to be between my sister and the district and the administrator in particular.
Yeah, well, I understand that. You understand my concerns.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's not ideal.
It's kind of a mess.
It is a mess, yes. And hopefully it gets resolved quickly and can come back, unless Leah really wants to dig into it, which she may have an interest. There's also nothing that necessarily precludes us onboarding the new commissioner, now and starting her thinking about that if she wants to consider.
I've been keeping her up to speed on all of the things involved in my position, so this would be just another one for her to come on board with prior to January 1.
Well, I've aired my concerns. That's all I can say. I don't have any good answers. I just had concerns.
Yeah,
We appreciate that.
yeah, totally get it.
We do too.
Could I get, if you guys are okay with this, could I get a motion to approve the revised position descriptions?
I move to approve the revised position descriptions for Family Services Coordinator and Public Health Administrator positions as presented.
I'll Second. It's been moved and seconded that we approve the revised position descriptions for Family Services Coordinator and Public Health Administrative positions as presented. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
I'll vote in favor.
Okay, so Commissioner Shannon is an aye on that. Any opposed? Motion passes. Okay, let's move on to announcements and next meeting. Next meeting is going to be August 17th in Arlington. Also wanted to note that that afternoon is the work session that we have scheduled with the Port of Arlington Board. So both meetings will be held in the Hornquist building. Sherry, what do you got going on?
Well, not a terrible lot, except for responsibilities as the Human Resources Commissioner. And then, of course, Norcor is coming up again in August. We did not meet in July. We're having our regular meeting in August. And one thing I will address there is the AOC district meeting is scheduled. Oh, I guess it isn't. Never mind. That is not the third Thursday, that's the fourth Thursday in September, because September starts on Thursday. I was concerned that Norcor and AOC district was going to conflict in September, but it does not. That's about all I have.
Perfect. Pat, what do you have going on?
Well, July was kind of slow for meetings and stuff. I did meet with a potential developer, look at some property for housing in Arlington, and I'm meeting with another one tomorrow afternoon. I'm not sure what they've reached out to the county, and that reached out to me in particular, and so I'll meet with them and see what they're thinking, and along the same lines, property and housing, what's available. And then other than that, there's a lot of AOC community meetings coming up in the next month. I'm going to try to attend as many as possible, and definitely transportation. And CREA's meetings coming up in a couple of weeks, and UAC on the 22nd. So busy August, it looks like.
Yeah. So for me, I will, let me actually see. I just remind myself of meetings since our last meetings. We had a meeting, actually, Delaney, Miranda, and I hosted Columbia Gorge Community College, came out, and Catherine was there from the city, and then both superintendents from both school districts were there, which was great to meet both of them. They had really interesting ideas about ways the community college can partner more closely with the school districts, and also had some sort of continuing ed or adult education discussions, which was really, I thought, good. Speaking of housing, the superintendent in Arlington, Larry Johnson, also is starting a discussion about whether the school should look into housing for its teachers, because that is becoming a recruitment barrier when they're trying to bring in especially new teachers, new to the community. So there may be some synergy there, Pat, with your developer that you were talking to. Let's see. The Frontier Regional 911 meeting board met a couple of weeks ago. Pretty straightforward. We are down a considerable amount of dispatchers right now. And so the board is approving some additional signing bonuses and things like that, just to try to fill those seats, because right now the dispatchers are, some of the dispatchers have not had days off for weeks in order to staff the center 24/7. So I just wanted to kind of note that for the record, that I hope folks remember that amongst us are people who are working around the clock basically to be on call when we need them. So I just wanted to share my appreciation for them. Let's see. Delaney and I've had continuing to have a bunch of meetings around childcare and in preparation for the rocket process, which is going to kick off here in about a week. Let me see. The other things that are going on, I have a discussion with the MCHED director, Jessica Mehta, tomorrow to talk about the boundaries for the economic development districts. It sounds like their board is ready to move forward or pretty close to moving forward. And so I would expect for the court to have a resolution, if not next meeting, then by the first probably meeting in September. That is the first step of basically we have to pass a resolution, the GEODC has to pass a resolution releasing us, MCHED has to pass a resolution accepting us. Both governors, since it's Washington and Oregon are in MCHED, both governors have to submit letters supporting the change, and then all of that goes to the EDA in DC, and then they decide whether they want to move the boundary. So we're going to start that process. That will be coming. Let me see what else. The only other thing really has been, I have started attending the Four Rivers Early Learning Hub meetings just to try to get a sense of how they're operating, what they may be able to offer to our childcare crisis, if anything, and just sort of understanding more what they're working on and how that might apply to us. And other than that, I think those are the big things for now. Yeah, just mostly childcare, housing, and fiber are the big ones as usual. The other thing I wanted to flag for you guys, commissioners, as well for next meeting is I am going to be bringing a few shifts in job descriptions for us to consider. Now that we have staff in place and they've been here for a couple of months, their skill sets are starting to come out. And so we've talked previously about Miranda having an HR background. And so I would like to utilize her to pick up some things like policies and procedures and onboarding and job descriptions and all of those kinds of things that she really has an interest in. Delaney, of the two of them, is probably the one that's most comfortable with tech. And so she has raised her hand and offered to be sort of the liaison between staff and IT because that's more of her comfort area. And then the other thing to flag for you as well, in particular you, Commissioner Shannon, is that originally the safety committee actually was housed in the road department because a lot of the safety issues, understandably, are with our guys who are moving heavy equipment. And so I've had a discussion with Jolie as well about whether she would be willing to take back the safety committee from Delaney, where it's currently at. And so we're looking at just kind of doing a shift to better align with staff skill sets and make sure everybody's got plenty of stuff on their plate. So I don't have anything like today to show you, but I just wanted to flag for you that I've been talking to all three of them and we're working on revising position descriptions. So you should expect that next meeting.
So
I think that's good with, especially on the safety committee stuff too, because I have a strong background there and I can work with her on some visible things I've seen. And so, yeah, good.
And she's already, we anticipated you guys were going to say yes. And so Delaney's already sort of walked her through like how the safety committee's been operating. And I know there's that conference, I think in Central Oregon that Jolie had found that looked really interesting and might be helpful. So I think she's excited to take that on. So, Sherry, did you say you had something?
Has anyone reached out to either of you regarding the risk map for the fire issue in the state that has caused an issue with insurance for not just our rural and farming community, but also people who are on the outskirts of city?
And so not beyond that, just about everybody in the courthouse got a letter.
Okay, as they are all there.
Yep. And including some county properties, received letters about us being high risk.
Yeah.
It's like the state just realized that there are wildfires in Oregon.
Yeah,
Which is
right.
a little aggravating that they have a couple of big fires on the west side and suddenly are mapping things that in the end, I don't think are gonna be helpful to us. So other than that, than people saying, what are these letters and what do we need to do? I have not had any other feedback. Pat, have you had any?
No, I have not.
My understanding is it's causing an insurance issue.
Yes, it will. So it
Oh, yeah.
will do with your fire class code. So currently Condon, and a lot of those close to Condon are a 6. I think Arlington is either a 5 or a 6. Most people live out of town are 10s, which is the highest risk you can have. And they're slowly shifting because both places have volunteer fire departments. We don't have paid staff. That will cause your insurance score to increase because they're not looking as kindly on those rural volunteer fire departments as they used to. So it will become a price increase for most people and possibly being dropped by certain insurance companies because they don't want to write you under that protection class.
Which means our farming community can't operate without insurance.
They can, it's expensive.
Very expensive.
Very expensive.
I mean, I think it's definitely something, we have an outgoing governor, but I think it's probably worth flagging it with the governor's office as well as with our legislators about, I'm sure they're hearing it from the other counties, but
Yeah, I wondered about AOC and the Morrow County and Unicoi County and Shirley County, and we're all, should all be in this together and need to work towards.
the other thing, just as a note that could be helpful for us as well is, I don't know if commissioners, you got the email from Nate Stice that there's been a shift at Regional Solutions. And so Leah Horner, who was the governor's sort of statewide director of Regional Solutions, has gone on to her next thing. Nate Stice has been appointed to step in as the director for the entire state program. And so I think because he knows us so well, it's probably, that would be my first contact, actually. I'm sure he's hearing it anyway from Wasco County and other places, but since he lives out here, he knows firsthand what it looks like. And that we're at no higher risk today than we were last year or 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Or it's this is just the nature of what it is to live in Eastern Oregon in late summer. So anything else for the good of the order? Commissioners, are you guys still interested in us doing a group walkthrough of the school, or do you guys want to do your own thing? The school is telling us that once they are open for the year, they would be glad to welcome us through, but until the project closes, there's some liability things about taking the public with them. And so if you guys wanted to see, do a one-on-one with Michelle Gear, who is still kind of helping the school wrap up that project, I think she would be willing to do that. But if you wanted to go as a county court, then we would try to get that scheduled after the school year starts.
Well,
I'm good with doing it individually.
Okay.
It doesn't matter, just an interest of Michelle's time. Do we want to make her take us each one, or?
She didn't
didn't
have,
care.
if anything, probably the logistics of walking the public through was more.
Oh, right, yeah. Because it's a public meeting.
Was more daunting to her than taking us one by one.
So we could just reach out to her ourselves and see.
Okay.
Sure.
Anything else for the good of the order? If not, it is 11:05 and I will adjourn the meeting.
All right.